SCORM 1.2 is how an e-learning course is typically played, tracked, and delivered in this space. I think SCORM has 5. And SCORM is effectively the way that most courses play and track. To be really specific, SCORM 1.2 is still the most common e-learning standard found anywhere in the world. Our SCORM cloud sees millions of courses launched every month, and among them, somewhere between 70 and 80% of all real launches are still SCORM 1.2. And a lot of folks in tech immediately recoil and go, oh my gosh, why are we doing something so old? But when it comes to interoperability, it's nearly the one time in technology where something's age is really its strength. So SCORM is typically used for your page turner type of experiences, a beginning, a middle, an end, probably an assessment. It is found behind the scenes in compliance training all over the world in nearly every vertical I can think of. It's one of the best parts of my job is getting to talk to people in various industries in various countries doing various things. And SCORM is a common thread when it comes to learning, training, compliance, and a lot of what we consider digital learning today. The SCORM course itself can be nearly anything that plays in a modern active web browser session. So as long as it can work in what we consider to be Chrome, it's going to be fine as it's deployed into an LMS. There's asterisks, we'll talk about them, and generally it tracks what we call the big four. You'll hear me talk about this regularly, so we can go ahead and define them. Time spent, completion status, pass-fail status, and score are among the most common metrics that we see reporting up to an LMS, and they're kind of the basics, whether you're checking someone's knowledge in the hallway or using a Scantron sheet or having a modern e-learning experience. Building these things and tracking those basics is pretty normal and what is expected here. So often I try to find ways to link the weird technical things that Rustici does to familiar concepts. And I think the MP3 is a great example for normal folks to kind of wrap their heads around. Tim Edwards and I could start a band tomorrow, and we could mix our song using GarageBand on my phone or my MacBook, or we could step into a studio here in Nashville down the street and use Pro Tools with all the cool little knobs. And we're musicians. There's no expectation that we are computer programmers. And I think that's often a misconception when you see learning and development professionals starting to get into SCORM. Oh, I've got to be highly technical. You don't really. Musicians don't have to be highly technical to know that they can save their song as an MP3. They can deliver it out to players all over the world. It could be Spotify, it could be Napster back in the day, and that those songs will play the same way every time across whatever device they were on. An iPod, a Zune, an iPhone, an Android phone. Musicians don't get into the technical weeds. They use off-the-shelf tools to build the course or the song, and they use off-the-shelf players in order to deliver it to their audience. The advantage is that it's a published standard. An MP3 is a package that can move between devices, and when someone hits the triangle button to launch it, it is consistently playing the exact same way. It wouldn't be an advantage if your song sounds differently on one device over another. And so this kind of gets us into a mode of the e-learning industry and the music industry have similar things. So SCORM is to the e-learning industry what the MP3 is to the music industry. And this is why it's the only time in tech where something's age is its strength, is when everyone in the world agrees that, oh, an MP3 is how we play a song. SCORM 1.2 is how an e-learning course is typically played, tracked, and delivered in this space. I think SCORM has 5, 10, 15 years of life left in it, just like I think that the MP3 has 5, 10, 15 years of life left in it. The PDF and the XLS, there are a lot of standards in your daily life that are super old, yet still very valuable. So just because SCORM is old doesn't mean it's bad. Just because the MP3 is old doesn't mean it's bad. There are new music standards out there, FLAC, Apple Lossless, but if our band, Tim and I's band, decides to publish as one of these new standards and an Android phone can't play it, that's not really a strength. So Rusticity works very hard at advancing the standards, but realize that sometimes when it comes to interoperability, something's age is its strength.